be considered a talent. The young man who had cultivated with him in the Thunder Spirit Pool approached him first. I am Tian Lei Feng Amo Fujio, may I ask your surname? Hanju politely introduced himself. When Amo Fujio learned he was from Yuwu Peak, he was both surprised and regretful. Is junior brother from the Yuwu Peak? Joining Yuwu Peak with this identity is truly a waste. Why not come to Tianlei Peak and join my master, Lei Xiu? Hanju had already taken Shichuan Fairy as his master, once a master, always a father. How could I change so easily? Seeing that he couldn't convince him immediately, Fujio still wanted to give him more time to think. The system displayed some information, and though Hanju didn't know what it said, he was so surprised that his eyes widened. At this moment, Xing Hongchuan was being chased by a group of people. It seemed to be people from the demonic sect. She had already betrayed them, but her whereabouts were unknown. Her identity made everyone want her dead. To redeem herself, there was only one person who believed in her, and that was Hanju. She had only him standing up for her in this life, so she considered him her fate. A crow cawed, caw caw caw, there's red hair in the bushes. So, Xing Hongchuan began running again. She hoped that one day she could see Hanju again. Meanwhile, Hanju saw Xing Hongchuan being chased and helplessly held his head. Why is she still alive? After years of not seeing her, why does she still feel the same affection for me, even stronger than before? However, this system had a function to record phenomena and events, though Hanju wasn't sure what else it could do. He just hoped it wouldn't harm him in the future. Forget it, let's continue cultivating. Just then, strange bell sounds rang from outside. Hanju immediately ran out to join the excitement. Yue excitedly ran up to him. Let's hurry and see the master. A second later, Yue tripped and fell to the ground. After so many years, Hanju had already broken through to the foundation establishment stage, and she couldn't even see through his cultivation level. She was at the second level of foundation establishment, while he was at least at the third level. She had promised to protect her, but now Yue was even weaker than Hanju. This made her favorability toward him drop drastically. Yuwu Peak had never sounded the bell, and Yue forgot to tell Hanju. When the bell rings, it means the master wants to summon all disciples. When Hanju arrived, all eyes were on him, as everyone wanted to break the rules of Yuwu Peak. A four-eyed young man walked over to greet him. He was Lu Sanxin. He was specifically in charge of the affairs of Yuwu Peak, ensuring that Fairy Shichuan could focus on her cultivation. Hanju politely thanked his senior brother. Just then, Fairy Shichuan arrived. The sect leader has issued an order. The 3 lowest-ranked peaks in the next 36 peaks will send disciples to confront the Qingming demon sect. Over the years, the demon sect has repeatedly sent spies to plot against the Jade Clear sect. The sect leader has decided to strike back. Hanju looked around. Everyone was looking fierce. Hanju wasn't worried about being sent, but whether the last 3 peaks would either die or ally with the enemy was still unclear. Fairy Shichuan didn't care about the rankings, but since this involved the demon sect and the Jade Clear sect, there would inevitably be a battle. She reminded everyone to carefully choose their tasks and not be lax in any way. Lu Sanxin reported that the sect had recently planned to cultivate the most outstanding disciples as a foundation for the next generation. Therefore, he believed this plan was specifically designed for first-generation disciples like himself. To his surprise, Fairy Shichuan chose Hanju. After all, he had gone from the 9th level of Qi refining to the 3rd level of foundation establishment shortly after joining the peak. Indeed, other disciples also felt it was inappropriate. In terms of strength or talent, senior brother Lu is the best candidate. Junior brother just arrived, and now there's a cultivation plan for him? Hanju didn't want to waste time on cultivation. He raised his hand and stood up to refuse. It wasn't a good thing that his master personally sent him. Perhaps they would even suspect he was a spy sent by the demon sect. Fairy Shichuan didn't force him and sent Lu Sanxin instead. However, she couldn't understand why he would refuse such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. When Lu Sanxin returned, he hurriedly thanked Hanju for giving the opportunity to him. Because of this, his affection for Hanju increased by 1 star. As Lu Sanqin left, Wei excitedly took the initiative to offer to lead Hanju, and Lu Sanqin looked at her in confusion, flashing a mysterious smile. It was as if he was telling Hanju to hold on to her. Wei was going to take Hanju to carry out a sect mission because he had been staying in his cave dwelling and cultivating ever since he arrived. Upon hearing that they would be going out to carry out a mission, Hanju put on a lazy expression and said, "Can I skip it? It's okay if you don't go, but..." Wei asked curiously, "How can you stay in the cave without feeling oppressed or exhausted? Doing tasks can earn you a lot of cultivation resources." Hanju found many excuses to refuse doing tasks. Mainly because he was afraid of death. Wei angrily scolded, "How can we cultivators be afraid of death? If you're not afraid of death, then what's the point of cultivating immortality?" Wei was at a loss for words when he said this, and instead, found it to be very reasonable. Their conversation was overheard by Fairy Shichuan. Sure enough, she suspected him of being a spy for the demon sect, although now, due to his refusal to participate in cultivation tasks, her suspicion had lessened. But a rogue cultivator like him, who doesn't lack high-level resources, made her feel the need to observe him even more. Over 10 years later, Hanju finally returned to the Thunder Spirit Pool. The tree demon saw that he was still at the 3rd level of the foundation establishment stage and couldn't help but feel puzzled, thinking he was a genius. Seeing him sigh, the tree demon comforted, "Listen to me, cultivation is profound, and you can't fully grasp it yet." Not being able to grasp it wasn't Hanju's style. They only saw his thunder spirit root at the 3rd level, but didn't notice his other roots. He had spent almost 400 high-quality spirit stones to raise his other roots to the 5th level of foundation establishment. His actual cultivation was already close to the 5th level. The remaining few spirit stones had to be used to perfect his thunder spirit chi. "Junior Han, you're here too." Mark Fuchu jumped out to greet him. He was accompanied by a girl who was his junior sister, Mark Chu. As soon as she saw Hanju, she pouted and muttered, "Why are you still at the 3rd level of foundation establishment? Senior brother said you should have already reached the 6th level." Hee, steady progress. After Hanju said that, he sat down to cultivate. Standing here for even a second consumed many spirit stones, so he specially reminded them not to come near while he was cultivating. Mark Chu seemed a little disappointed because, over the years, it seemed he hadn't made much progress, and it felt like Fuchu's expectations were wasted. She, on the other hand, looked at herself and thought that breaking through 2 levels in 10 years was definitely the speed of a genius. Suddenly, Mark Chu felt something strange. The spiritual energy around them was being absorbed at an incredibly fast rate. It even exceeded Mark Fuchu's absorption capacity, even though he was already at the 9th level of foundation establishment. At this point, Mark Chu's face turned pale, not knowing what cultivation method Hanju was using. If it's due to his root talents, then why hasn't his realm improved at all? Mark Fuchu could only think of one reason, that he had suppressed his cultivation. He might have already caught up to Fuchu's cultivation level. Every time they met, Hanju would give him a reason to admire him, and his feelings of goodwill kept increasing. 8 years later, Hanju finally perfected his thunder spirit chi to the 9th level. At that point, he stopped cultivating thunder spirit chi and went to claim his rewards. The tree demon now realized that he wasn't simple and had a method for suppressing his cultivation. It now had an opportunity to help him gain more cultivation resources, so it wanted to invite him to participate. Hanju only cared about one question: is it dangerous? Opportunities always come with dangers. Upon hearing this, Hanju immediately turned coldly and left. Although the opportunities in the cultivation world were good, even with just a little bit of danger, he preferred to receive regular rewards rather than take risks. But every time Hanju appeared, he became the focal point of the girls around him. A strong attraction isn't necessarily a good thing. Suddenly, a small hand touched Hanju. Mo Zhu appeared out of nowhere and said warmly, "Brother Han, you're here too? We must be destined to meet. I just happen to need your help with something. It's a huge opportunity." Hanju remained expressionless, thinking to himself, how come the word opportunity always clings to me like a thirsty bloodsucker? Seeing Hanju's silence, MISU deliberately moved closer, trying to grab him. If successful, wealth and glory will no longer be a dream. Maybe there will be unexpected gains. Seeing her constantly rely on him, Hanju coldly shrugged off her hand, saying, Miss Mo, please respect yourself. I need to go back and cultivate. MISU was rejected so decisively that she became furious. Before she had time to vent her anger, Hanju had already disappeared without a trace. At that moment, he was hiding behind a wall, thinking, I hope she won't chase after me. Two girls walked by, chatting excitedly, discussing a younger man more handsome than last year's intersect competition. From their words, it was clear they were talking about Hanju. But what Hanju cared about was the intersect competition. He had been so busy cultivating that he almost forgot about it. His master would definitely not let him off the hook. So he hurried back to apologize to Fairy Shichuan. Fortunately, she didn't blame him for this, but instead mentioned something else. You're still stuck at the third layer of foundation establishment? Are you joking with me? I know you're not just staying there. Hanju honestly reported that he had reached the 9th layer of foundation establishment, but he had hidden his cultivation to live a peaceful life. Fairy Shichuan narrowed her eyes, suspecting, if there was someone like you working so hard at Yuwu Peak, that peak would surely have become the strongest by now. After receiving his master's approval, the system rewarded Hanju with a movement technique manual, 7-fold illusion steps. He almost forgot about it. He had been talking to Fairy Shichuan, but didn't realize that someone wanted to join Yuwu Peak. He turned his head and saw the cold, wind-blown face of Elder Tie. The scene of this accidental encounter after decades was something even he hadn't expected. The two stared at each other blankly. Elder Tie? Hanjue? Yue stood in the middle and curiously asked, did you two know each other before? But this wasn't just a simple acquaintance. At that moment, Fairy Shichuan had also appointed Hanjue as Elder Tie's senior brother, and would later teach him. The two sat together, both in low spirits. Hanjue, of course, didn't dare to call Elder Tie his junior brother, and Elder Tie still looked bewildered, not understanding what had happened. That year, he had examined Hanjue and found he had no spiritual root, but now he was an intersect disciple. It had taken him 20 years to reach the foundation establishment stage, while Hanjue was already at the 9th layer of foundation establishment. If he had noticed back then, perhaps he would have broken through long ago. Junior brother Tia, what's with that expression? Yue suddenly appeared behind Elder Tia, looking as if she was about to devour him. Junior brother Han is a genius of the peak, and I won't allow you to have any improper thoughts. Fairy Shichuan had called Hanjue today to assign him a task. Because he was even more eager to cultivate than her, she arranged for him to guard the Wanya realm of Yuqing sect. When Hanjue heard the name, he immediately sensed a dangerous aura. But Yue was excited as if she was going to play. That's where Yuqing sect raises demonic pets. Let me go with junior brother, master. No, it's very dangerous there. Demonic beasts can break out of their cages at any time. Some disciples have died because of it. Hanjue felt a chill in his heart upon hearing this. His master had actually assigned him such a task. It turned out that each peak sent a disciple to guard it, and the place was rich in spiritual energy, making it a great place for cultivation. Though dangerous, as long as one was careful, it would be fine. With this reason, Hanjue couldn't refuse anymore. He had no choice but to obey Fairy Shichuan's orders. After leaving, she turned to remind Elder Tia to build a good relationship with Hanjue, as she didn't care about past grudges. From my understanding, he won't scheme against you. You can rest assured. Hanjue will be the heir disciple of Yuwu Peak in the future. Upon hearing this, Elder Tia was stunned and widened his eyes, wondering in his heart if he really deserved it. Half a year later, due to the rich spiritual energy of the Wanya realm, Hanjue had already reached the 6th layer of the Wind Spiritual Roots Foundation establishment, but his other spiritual roots were still stagnant. Feeling frustrated, He went to check the system to see if there were any new features. The relationship module has been updated again. The favorability of Hong Ying has actually reached 4 stars, and she has decided to make you her husband. Maybe she's lost her mind after being beaten by the demon race and Yuling sect. It was time for the patrol, and you lazily stretched, loosening your muscles. Every patrol is also a training session for the 7 layers of illusory steps. Although the myriad demon realm is a great place for cultivation, the demon beasts often revolt, so disciples are needed to guard it. Today, Hanju had just stepped out the door when he encountered a demon beast that looked like a teddy cat. It doesn't seem too dangerous. So, you simply walked around it and whistled as you went. Unexpectedly, as soon as you turned around, it revealed its true form. A giant beast pounced, using its powerful claws to tear at Hanju. But your body disappeared like an illusion. This surprised it. At this moment, Hanju was already in the air. This demon beast could easily enter your forbidden zone, which was no simple feat. Each layer of the 7 layers of illusory steps creates a shadow. Cultivating to the peak of the 7th layer allows the creation of 7 shadows, which not only increases speed but can also confuse the enemy. Although Hanju was flying in the air at the speed of a blink, this demon beast was no simple existence. You must seal its movements. After creating 7 shadows to surround the demon beast, Hanju used the absolute finger divine sword. From the air, the sword light flickered, shooting straight down. It pierced through the demon beast's body. It painfully curved its tail and fled. But it wasn't critically injured. Because only your true body can hurt this 7-layer illusion. Fortunately, this monster only has rocket-like speed and no real attack methods. I'm just curious about what kind of monster that big cat is, able to break through the barrier and come in. Recently, the monster riots have been happening more and more frequently. It's about time I report to the higher-ups. The sect immediately convened an emergency meeting. Everyone feels that the Qingming demon sect is at fault. I'm afraid they want to use the monsters from the 10,000 monster realm. That's right, recently the sect has tripled the number of demon sect. Spies we've cleaned up, maybe we should send some disciples to the 10,000 monster realm. Yuling sect is facing 2 major issues, the disappearance of the sect leader and the monster riots. Elder Lei, of the Thunder Peak, suggested investigating the truth behind these 2 matters. He turned around to ask Fairy Shichuan's opinion because she had been silent since the beginning of the meeting. But she only said that everything should be decided by them. Dao Lei then suspected that she knew something about the genius cultivation plans of the various peaks, so he immediately asked where the sect leader had gone with the disciples from the 18 peaks. Senior brother, you know I've been in secluded cultivation. I only know a little about these things. If there are traitors in the sect, I can only trust you, we can join forces. Fairy Shichuan nodded, after all, the 2 of them share the same roots. For some reason, Elder Lei smiled meaningfully. 2 years later, Hanju sat down to rest, guarding the barrier formation. Thanks to the arrangement of the barrier formation, Hanju could patrol and rest at the same time. Currently, Hanju is at the 6th layer of foundation establishment, and no one in the barrier's golden core realm can enter, allowing him to cultivate in peace without fear of being disturbed. Young friend, do you treat the 10,000 monsters as a place for cultivation? Hee, what's wrong? Hanju had just answered when his face suddenly turned pale. Isn't it just me here? How come there's a strange old man now? He isn't affected by the barrier, which means his cultivation level has surpassed the golden core realm. Seeing Hanju's panicked expression, the old man smiled gently and explained. Don't be afraid, I'm like you, a disciple of Yuling sect, here to guard the 10,000 monster realm. Although he said that, the old man could see through Hanju's cultivation and knew he had already reached the 9th layer of foundation establishment. After saying something that made Hanju's soul almost leave his body, he tried to calm the atmosphere. No need to be nervous. Did you come here voluntarily or were you sent by your master? My master, Fairy Shichuan, sent me. For some reason, the old man let out a light oh. He even asked if Fairy Shichuan had assigned any tasks to him.